I'm Michelle Cassidy from Essence of Living, and today I thought I'd share with you a little bit of Pantanjali's teachings. And Pantanjali was this great sage who wrote something called the Yoga Sutras, which is where we get the 8 limbs from yoga, which you probably already know: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. You know those 8 things? Yeah, well, he also wrote lots of other awesome things in that text, which a lot of people don't talk about. And at the very beginning in chapter 1, he actually talks about the 5 fluctuations of the mind that cause suffering. And that is our attachment or our belief system around what we believe is right, what we believe is wrong, or incorrect knowledge. The other being our imagination. So our imagination has to do with us always future forecasting and projecting out into the future and daydreaming, which is actually a useful thing to have. But as long as you can ground back down and make it real. And then also the other one is our memory. Smriti is always going into the past, reliving past experiences, and bringing the past into the present. It's something that for you to even consider for yourself, you know, how much does your past influence your present? And you're like, yes, Michelle, of course it does. It's, you know, I need to know my past experiences because they help me navigate into the now so I don't, you know, fall over, so I can drive a car, so I can ride a bike. But some of us are carrying past memories that aren't serving us in the present moment. But the 5th fluctuation of the mind is known as nidra, which is sleep or sleepy. And so Patanjali, just to navigate this back, it's a textbook on meditation, essentially, on how to meditate. And so when we come to the mat and we're sitting and we're like, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to be committed today, your mind can dance between these 5 sort of fluctuations, either into what you believe to be right or what you think is wrong. These things pop into your head, or then you'll be sitting there and all of a sudden some imagination will come in, or you'll be starting to go back into your past, or you'll be sitting there, and I'm sure you've done it before, I know I have, and I've been sitting there and I'm like, and I'll get sleepy. Have you ever done that when you're trying to meditate? So these are the 5 fluctuations, and check it out for yourself. Just watch yourself, not by being the inner critic, but just by being the observer, and have that self-awareness as like, well, where's my head at? And I promise you, you will be at either of these 5 fluctuations of the mind at any given point of time, not just when you're meditating, like even now when you're conscious, functioning through your daily life. It's like, I think this is right. No, that's not right. Or actually, no, my past, they're all influencing you. So, and sometimes you can have 2 or 3 operating at once. And so something to consider, you know, where's my head at? And these fluctuations are said to be the cause of suffering or non-suffering. And then, so these are the 5 fluctuations that the Patanjali shares with us that we will start to become aware of through our practice of self-awareness and mindfulness and eventually meditation once we dig a little deeper. But the 4 functions of the mind is something else that Patanjali shares with us, and something that I think is really useful for the yogi to wrap their mind around. And those 4 functions of the mind, the first one is known as your chitta, and is essentially yourself. So at the very beginning of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he says, yogas chitta vritti nirodha. So it's when the chitta is no longer dancing, no longer jumping from one to the other, wavering. It's when it becomes one-pointed. Okay, there's a stillness of the mind. The chitta is still. But the chitta forgets who it is. And the first veiling of the chitta is when ahamkara, the ego, arises, this sense of self. And this happens when you're really young, when you're around 2, and I've got 2-year-old twins. And it's all of a sudden when the 2-year-old starts to go, no, this is mine. No, this is mine. And I see it with my twins starting to fight now. It's just like, all of a sudden, it's like around 2 years of age, it's like they have an identity, and this is mine and I'm not sharing. You know, and so we forgot, and that's why they say when you're a baby and you're like, oh, goo goo gaga, the chitta is free. But then we form this identity, this sense of self, the ego, the ahamkara. And so the ahamkara is this veiling. And so the fastest way to reach self-realization, they say, is to kill the ego. And then you can go straight back to when you were like a baby. all blissful, right? That's the goal of yoga, essentially, is to come back to that place. And then we have two sort of directional movements of the mind that either take us back towards chitta or away from chitta, the self. And the moving away from is known as your mana minds or your manas, and that is preferably or predominantly run by your five senses. So everything you see, everything you hear, everything you taste, everything you touch, everything you smell. These are your five faculties that are constantly bringing in information, yeah? And then all your preferences associated with those five senses. And so that's your manas mind, and it's always, it shouldn't be the operator, but it often is. But this is all the information coming in. But as we start to gather all this information, it's like taking us further and further and further away from the chitta, the true self. Because we get consumed with all this content, all of this stuff, and then we get this brain filled with just crap, really, because we've just had so many impressions. But then there's a good part. You have the buddhi mind, and your buddhi mind will actually, it's like the one that has enlightened discrimination and discernment. So hold on, no, that's not useful. The buddhi mind is a part of you that says, hold on, I'm actually going to close down. I'm not going to listen to that. No, I'm not going to take that in anymore. And starts to have that discriminative awareness to actually sort of come back towards the self and starts to have more of an approach to self-awareness and coming home back to the true self. The buddhi mind is a part of you that is, how could I say, is the consciously aware, is the yogic part of yourself, bringing yourself back, self-awareness. And so these are the four sort of functions of the mind. You have the chitta and that baby, yeah? And then we forget, and all of a sudden we get this sort of identity and we become a sense of self. This is the ego, the ahamkara. And then the manas mind is like pulling in from all the five senses, all this information. But then the buddhi mind, that part of us that says, oh, hold on, I need to edit here. I need to delete some of this information, and I'm going to make my way back towards the chitta. And so these are the four functions of the mind. And so the question is, where are you? Are you letting the manas mind, all these five senses, rule your life? You know, one thing I've definitely found is to ask yourself, how attached am I to my senses? And this is really useful for you, and this will transform your life, is like your preference around, oh, I really like the look of that. Oh, I hate the look of that. Oh my gosh, you're hurting my eyeballs. You know what I mean? Oh, I love it when you speak to me like that. I hate it when you speak to me in that tone. You know, all our preferences. Oh, that tastes amazing. Oh my God, that tastes disgusting. Oh, I love it when you touch me like that. That hurts. Okay, so we have all these preferences around our senses, and so the yogi tries to soften all of these preferences that we have. This is a really practical thing that we can start to do in our lives, but eventually we want to do a U-turn all the way back to chitta, our true self, and come back to the atman, the enlightened part of ourselves, so we can come home. So these are the five fluctuations. So check in with yourself. Where am I at? Am I in, oh, this is right? No, this is not right. Remember when we used to think the world was flat? Oh, it's flat, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, now it's not flat, it's round, yeah? So these are, you know, what is right, what is not right, our conditioning, and often this is based on what our parents taught us, society has taught us, the time and place, our culture. But then we've also, are you living in the past? Or are you daydreaming in the future? Or are you just sleeping? So these are things just to start to be aware. Patanjali has so much wisdom. He's not just about the 8 limbs. There's actually a lot more in there for you to dig into. And if you love Patanjali as much as me, I run a 5-day immersion just unpacking Patanjali Yoga Sutras if you want to dive a little deeper and learn a little bit more about yoga other than just asana, because it's really amazing and so practical for right now. It's, even though it was written, you know, 1600 to 2000 years ago, it's not definite exactly the writings, but they're so helpful for us to navigate through this modern lifestyle. So come visit me, check out my website, and I'd love you to start just checking in with yourself. Where's my mind at? You know, am I moving away from my true self, or am I moving back towards my true self? Am I living mindfully, consciously? Just something to consider.